Ternate and Tidore, the spice wars of the Maluku Islands. They weren't kings of vast empires, but their islands that controlled the most valuable substance on Earth. In the heart of the Pacific, two volcanic islands, Ternate and Tidore, once shaped global history. From these specks of land came cloves, a spice worth more than gold. European empires sailed oceans, waged wars, and spilled blood to possess them. But before Magellan, before the Dutch and Portuguese fleets, the sultans of Ternate and Tidore ruled a spice kingdom with diplomacy, warfare, and Islamic learning. Their rivalry would ignite the first global colonial conflict in Southeast Asia. This is the untold story of the Spice Wars, of kingdoms that stood at the center of the world. Ternate and Tidore. Chapter 1. The Sacred Clove Islands. Ternate and Tidore lie in the Maluku Islands, the Moluccas, of eastern Indonesia, volcanic, fertile, and fragrant with the scent of cloves. Cloves, native only to these islands, were used since antiquity in medicine, food, and ritual. Chinese records mention clove trade as early as the Han Dynasty, 3rd century BCE. Arab traders carried them across the Indian Ocean long before Europeans arrived. Local polities grew wealthy, exporting cloves to Java, India, China, and the Middle East. By the 13th century, Ternate and Tidore had emerged as organized Islamic sultanates, influenced by traders from the Malay world and the Arabian Peninsula. Chapter 2. Rise of the Sultans. Both kingdoms claimed descent from sacred origins. Tidore, from a legendary prince of Arabia, and Ternate, from a mystical union of heaven and earth. Islam became the ideological foundation of royal authority, reinforced by scholars, qadis, and mosque networks. Sultan Ba'abullah of Ternate, R. 1577 to 1583, was known as the King of 72 Islands. He led the expulsion of the Portuguese and established diplomatic ties with Spain, the Ottoman Empire, and Java. Sultan Nuku of Tidore, 1781 to 1805, later led anti-colonial resistance against the Dutch, becoming a national hero in Indonesia. Both kingdoms maintained complex systems of vassals and tribute, with trade networks stretching across the Celebes, Mindanao, and the Malay archipelago. Chapter 3. First Contact. The Portuguese and Spanish arrive. In 1512, Portuguese ships under Francisco Serrao reached Ternate. They quickly established a fort and entered into alliance with the Sultan. Just decades later, Magellan's fleet, sailing westward for Spain, arrived in Tidore. This marked the beginning of the Iberian rivalry in the Maluku Islands. Spain backed Tidore, Portugal backed Ternate. What followed was a century of warfare, betrayal, and shifting alliances. The sultans skillfully played the Europeans against each other while trying to maintain sovereignty. Christianity and Islam clashed. Fortresses were built and destroyed. Chapter 4. The Dutch East India Company and the Spice Monopoly. In the 17th century, the Dutch East India Company, VOC, entered the region. More ruthless than the Iberians, they sought total monopoly over cloves. They destroyed clove trees on other islands to concentrate production in VOC-controlled regions. They forcibly relocated populations and suppressed rebellions with brutal force. Fortresses like Fort Orange, Ternate, and Fort Toluco became centers of VOC control. Ternate, after centuries of autonomy, became a Dutch vassal. Tidore, too, fell under European control. The Sultanates lost economic independence, but retained symbolic authority. Chapter 5. Resistance and the Legend of Sultan Nuku. In the late 18th century, with Dutch control weakening due to Napoleonic Wars, Sultan Nuku of Tidore launched a rebellion. He rallied Papuan warriors, island tribes, and even received British support. For a brief time, Nuku restored Tidore's independence and ousted the Dutch. Though he died in 1805, Nuku remains one of Indonesia's greatest national heroes, a symbol of anti-colonial struggle, resistance, and maritime unity. Chapter 6. The Fall of the Spice Kingdoms. By the 19th century, synthetic substitutes, changing trade routes, and full Dutch colonization ended the political power of Ternate and Tidore. The spice that once changed the world had lost its value. The Sultanates continued as ceremonial monarchies, playing cultural and religious roles under colonial rule, and later within modern Indonesia. Their capitals, Ternate City and Suasio, Tidore, remain centers of Islamic tradition and cultural pride. Ternate and Tidore were not mere trading posts. They were kingdoms of diplomacy, resistance, and legacy. They held the world in their hands, not with armies or empires, but with the scent of a flower. In our next episode, we explore the kingdom of Pagan, where Burmese kings built thousands of temples and shaped the destiny of Myanmar. Subscribe to Ancient Sea and rediscover the empires that time forgot.